Dear users of Reddit, was I wrong to walk out on my sister's wedding day after she read a chore list aloud?
When I opened the door expecting another routine check, two strangers entered, alongside scorecards meant to rate my home while I still lived there. I had just finished months of renovations on my cozy apartment when the knock came. It felt like any other day until my landlord greeted me with a smile, saying they needed some last-minute checks. As I stepped aside, he ushered in two men who looked nervous and fidgety. They were carrying folders stuffed with printed scorecards, clearly meant for rating the apartment. One of them glanced around as if checking for cameras before shuffling past me. "Just a few questions," one said casually, almost like an afterthought. The room grew silent. Everyone seemed to hold their breaths except for the landlord, who assured me it was harmless because I'd move out soon anyway. But then came the line that snapped something inside me: current tenant cooperation from excellent to difficult. I took the scorecards off the counter and told everyone the tour was over. Now my landlord says I embarrassed him, making future rentals harder, but I think his real issue is trying to make light of being caught unawares by guests during such a sensitive time. The neighbor's eyes widened, whispering about how awkward it all was. My roommate, standing nearby, whispered, "This isn't fair." The landlord tried to smooth things over, saying we could just pretend nothing happened, but I refused. My refusal reason was simple. I had worked hard to create a safe space here, and letting strangers scrutinize every corner felt like violating that privacy. Everyone else agreed it wasn't appropriate, but the landlord insisted it was just a small oversight. Social pressure mounted as more people chimed in, each adding their own version of why it shouldn't be a big deal. Yet, seeing those scorecards made me feel exposed and humiliated. In the end, I stood firm, knowing I couldn't pretend everything was fine. The aftermath left me feeling conflicted, wondering if I went too far or if the landlord's actions warranted stricter boundaries. What I keep coming back to is when I opened the door, he had brought two potential tenants and a folder of printed scorecards for them to rate the apartment while I was still living there. It was harder to brush off because it turned my personal boundary into a public argument and made me look unreasonable for reacting. The landlord later admitted, "We should have waited till after your lease ended," but I knew better than to trust that excuse again. My partner, who was working late that night, texted me later, "They know you've been renovating. That's probably why they wanted this quick check." The social media post from a neighbor read, "It's not like she hasn't had plenty of visitors." Why do landlords need to intrude on our private spaces? Their words stung, even though I understood where they were coming from. The receipt of those scorecards was worse than any verbal insult, proof that someone was judging my home before it belonged solely to me. Would you have let the tour continue, or was I right to shut it down?